home on December 18th, just 2 days after Mutumo disappeared. This discovery comes amidst repeated denials by top police agencies regarding the whereabouts of 3 young men.
I'm the one who reported the case. I'm the one who recorded the statement at the River DCI reporter. Fingerprint ndo zilichukuliwa, mwili ilipatikana tarehe 18 December. So fingerprints zimechukuliwa December. They said they want to take the test for 1 month. So fingerprints zimetoka jana, wakasema hii mwili iko opposite mortuary ni Justus.
Police gave misleading information that they were on their way to Kitui, but the body was found in the river around Ruai a day after disappearance. So the police did not give the correct information in court.
The police had already discovered a body and were doing investigation, and all along they have denied that they know of the whereabouts of the 3. They have no idea, because it's their responsibility and it's the role of the National Police Service to tell Kenyans who have been abducted, have they found them, what their processes they are going through, and if they had found a body, whether they were trying to investigate whether it was the 3 or not.
With the shock, the discovery of the body of Justus Mutumo, one of the missing Morongo men, he was found dead. The family lawyer, Senior Counsel Dan Manzo, has confirmed the body was discovered in Ruai and moved to City Mortuary in Nairobi. This is, of course, part of the list of people whom IPO was investigating, those who were abducted. And we have now sent our rapid response team to go to the mortuary and find out from more in terms of what has happened in this matter. We are going to brief the public about our own findings later.
All right, moving on to the corridors of justice. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja and Director of Criminal Investigation Mohammed Amin on Thursday appeared in court in line with the court order requiring them to do so after failing to do so 4 times. The two were required to appear in a court to explain the whereabouts of 3 people who were still missing after they were allegedly abducted in Mulolongo. Karani Mwema's whereabouts are still unknown, while growing concerns over the circumstances surrounding the trio's disappearance and the death of the two.
Issue. I don't want to use that word, because that word does not exist either in law or in the Constitution. So let's use the language. We are in court. Let's use the language that the law gives us to use. That language belongs to these people.
Thank you, my lord. I was just mistaken.
So, no. If you want us to use the language they use, we use it, but not here. Because how can I record abduction? Because the law doesn't know anything about that. So restrict yourself to 3 people and not to generality. Those people are missing. So if you want us to go to generalities, then we are not dealing with what has brought us here.
Thank you, my lord, for the directions. I believe that.
And I thought you knew that.
I knew that, my lord.
So why are you taking us the way you are taking us?
My lord, perhaps maybe before the witness is sworn, I seek a clarification from your lordship in the following respect. The orders of habeas corpus were issued explicitly in the names of 2 public and state officers, the first and second respondent. The first and second respondent, my lord, and I believe this is a point that one of my colleagues made earlier on, have the constitutional mandate to carry out investigations. My lord, they have taken the stand, they have been sworn, and they have spoken to the habeas corpus. My lord, the notice of motion before you is spent. The petition is still not for hearing. And the notice of motion was determined by the court issuing the orders of habeas corpus. Perhaps your lordship would be kind enough to perhaps give fresh directions that would then prescribe the manner in which the court is going to proceed. Because in this way, it can be an endless inquiry, and it can be a never-ceasing order of habeas corpus.
All right, moving on. In the case against Grace Njoki, a protester who was arrested for storming a press briefing by CS Health Deborah Mulongo Barasa, details have emerged that the Ministry of Health was the complainant in the case. Medical Services PS Harry Kimtai was forced to explain about the case of MPs at the parliamentary retreat in Naivasha. Speaker Moses Wetangula had to intervene after the PS was helped by the legislators who could hear none of it. Female legislators especially took issue with the manner in which Grace Njoki was handled as she arrested in hospital.
The question that Honorable Ishungwa asked, who is the complainant in regard to the lady who was arrested? Yes. The complainant is the Minister of Health. I am answering the question.
And who is the accounting officer?
The accounting officer, in the Ministry of Health, we have two accounting officers. One who is here today and another one who is not here today. We are 100 members. I will want to explain here what steps we took. Let me just explain. One, because what happened was our cabinet secretary was issuing a press statement. And then all of a sudden, we saw some group, we didn't know who they were initially. Wait a minute. I agree. Okay, women. So,
those women who stormed into the minister's prison, they came there to express frustrations that they were having out there. All your horses. From what I have picked from the video, there was no fracas, nobody was injured. And the ministry being a public place, you cannot talk of trespass. Yes. If I were you, in the interest of the image of your ministry and the public, I will withdraw that proposal.
And since the minister is a complainant, we are going to review the case, and if there is need for us to we are going to withdraw the case.
All right, moving on to matters education. The completion of 15,000 grade 9 classrooms is part of the government's efforts to ensure 100% transition to junior secondary school. Additionally, 35.3 billion has been disbursed for school capitation. Speaking at the Moi Forces Academy during the launch of 6 grade 9 classes, PS Education Belio Kipsang emphasized the government's commitment to working with parents and students to ensure a smooth transition to grade 9. Kipsang also acknowledged potential challenges next year, given the increase of grade 8 students, and ensured more classes will continue to be built.
Almost, I think we've done 15,000 classrooms. We've done 11,000 classrooms, which were done by the Ministry of Education directly. The CDF has done another 4,000 classrooms out of 6,800 that they were supposed to do. The other 2,000 classrooms are still at various stages of development. And also, as I mentioned, we targeted to do 16,000 classrooms between ourselves and the National Government Constituency Development Fund. It's made its decision yesterday. We've been told to be able to respond into the case, and the Attorney General's office, together with ourselves, will be able to take the next levels and the next stages. But in no way will this disadvantage our learners, because as you are all aware, we intended to have 2 series of examinations in a year. So in no way will it disadvantage our learners. The only thing is that we are denying the country and our learners an opportunity to be able to get a second chance in the fastest way that was possible.
All right, moving on to matters politics now. And Maendeleo Chap MCAs in the Machakos County Assembly have told off UDA National Organizing Secretary Vincent Musyoka over his recent remarks suggesting that their party should fold and join UDA to show support for President William Ruto. Led by Minority Leader Judas Mbili Ndawa, the MCAs pointed out that Kawa is not even a member of Chap and that if he wants the party to dissolve, he should switch from UDA to Chap and to gain the legal capacity to comment on its operations. The Matu Ward MCA emphasized that Chap is not an atom but a stable party with members, and it's the second largest party in Ukambani after Wiper, and he believes it will soon surpass Wiper.
Kuna wale walikuwa wanasema vyama vingine vivunjwa. Sisi kama members wa Maendeleo Chap hatunjawahi uzishwa na hatunjawahi kaa mkutano ya kusema ati chama inaweza kuvunjwa. Na tunasema mwenye yako na hiyo maono, yeye si member wa hii chama. Na akitaka awe na uwezo, yule uwezo wa kisheria ama legal capacity kuongea maneno ya hii chama, tunamwambia atoke ile hako anje join sisi, ndio at least awe na legal capacity ya kuongea maneno ya chama. Tulikuwa nataka tuchukue fursa hii tumshukuru sana our CS Dr. Alfred Mutua kwa kuona umuhimu wa kuita mkutano ya kuleta viongozi mahali pamoja. Juzi tulikuwa na mkutano pale Maanzoni ambaye alikuwa ameita, na ile mambo iliongewa pale yote hakuna kitu ya siasa, ilikuwa maneno ya unity na vile watu wanaweza kwenda kulobi vitu ifanywe katika area yetu. Tunataka tumwambie hiyo mkutano ilikuwa mzuri, pia tulimuona akifanya ingine pale Bomas ya youth, na tunamuomba kwa heshima asiende polepole, anjikaze, aite mikutano mingi ikiwezekana katika every sub county within the 3 counties ya Ukambani, ndio at least watu wetu wakae mahali pamoja. Kuna msemo ya Kikamba inasema fungwa ambao linjafungwa huwa inatawanywa na rungu moja, lakini kama imefungwa vizuri, hata ukilima na nyundo gani, kila kitu inalimaini kuwa intact.
All right, moving on. Kenya is losing 9 women daily to cervical cancer. Statistics show over 3,000 die annually due to the disease that has been categorized as a world's second killer disease. Consequently, there are 5,226 new cases of cervical cancer reported yearly in Kenya. Worldwide, 10 million people die as a result of cancer. The Kenyan government says these statistics are too grim, as the Ministry of Health now emphasizes on more screening and early treatment to combat the rising cases that are now robbing the country of productive women.
This country records about 5,226 new cases and 3,211 deaths for cervical cancer annually. Kila mwaka hapa nchini watu 5,236 new cases. Utaenda kwa hospitali, tuko na data, tunaambiwa hawa ndio wamepatwa na kansa, wamepatikana wako na kansa. Na kukufa 3,211. Kila mwaka tunapoteza wapendwa wetu. Cervical cancer in particular is the leading cause of cancer deaths in women and second most prevalent cancer overall. Wanawake wengi sana wale wanakufa kwa sababu ya ugonjwa ya kansa. Mimi mwenyewe dada yangu nimemzika last year kwa sababu ya kansa. Kansa yake ilijulikana kama iko stage 4. Hatunge reverse. Si mimi ndio nimesimamia madaktari. Ningekuwa na uwezo si ningesema daktari wote wakuja wamtibu sababu ni dada yangu. Lakini sasa ilikuwa imefika mahali hata hatungeweza, hata ningempeleka hospitali gani haingeweza kuwa reversed. Kwa sababu labda ingekuwa hapo mwaka wa 2018 akuwe screened, angepatikana labda iko stage 1 CHPs. Tumeagana aje? Tuende kwa manyumbani tuongee na wamama wote na wababa wote waende nini screening. Na screening hapa county government ya Nyandarua is free.
Na vile vile hata kuko na kansa ya wanaume, ile prostate cancer. Basi Madam PS wenye wametoa ushuhuda hapo wamesikia mambo ya SHA iko na shida. Sababu the cost of treating cancer, it becomes a very expensive process. And therefore, for us to make clear interventions as a government, a national government, county government, is to ensure that that cost is well, it can be met by the government by this process of the compliance, because SHA is a comprehensive health insurance.
Moving on, the CS Ministry of Lands and Housing, Alice Wahome, has warned land grabbers targeting public land, mostly in urban areas, to stop, for their days are numbered. The CS was speaking in South Bay Shopping Center at a groundbreaking of a 3-floor modern market, targeting several traders in Nairobi, including Mweki, Riruta, and others. The allocation is 332 million for the project, which will take exactly 1 year to finish. The area MP and MCA took issues with the governor of Nairobi for not working to understand people more than his county officials are supporting the grabbers. She urged the community to join her and push grabbers out of Lavington Primary School next week. Take a look.
Kama serikali, nikiwa waziri wa hii wizara ya ardhi, niko na jukumu mara mbili. Kwa sababu hiyo department ya ardhi ndio itachungia nyinyi na itatafuta atimiliki ya hii kiwanja. Hiyo ingine department ya housing and urban development ndio itajenga soko. Na hizo zote ziko chini yangu. Sasa sioni sababu gani hatutamaliza hii kazi. Na ninajua wale walikuwa wanamsumbua, ninawaelewa na ninawajua sana. Hata wao waliniuliza niwapatie usaidizi ndio hii plot iwe yao. Nikawaambia hao hiyo biashara hiyo haitawezekana, wasukumane na watu wa South B ambaye wamesema tangu mwanzo karatasi ya reservation ya hii kiwanja iliwekwa ikiwa ni ya market.
Right, moving on, at least 27 bodies have been recovered from Potomac River in Washington, D.C. following a mid-air collision between a Black Hawk helicopter and American Airlines flight. The American Airlines flight was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members, even as officials anticipate that there will be no survivors. It is believed that world champion Russian pair and U.S. stackers were on board crashed plane. The Army unit that was involved in the collision between the American Airlines plane and the Army helicopter had been put on an operational pause. Right, President Paul Kagame said Rwanda was ready for confrontation as he rejected criticism over his backing for M23 rebels who are pushing south on Thursday in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo after capturing the major city of Goma. M23 rebels will support from Rwanda troops marched into Goma this week and are now advancing towards Bukavu, capital of neighboring South Kivu province, the biggest escalation since 2012 of a decades-old conflict. Rwanda is facing an international backlash over its action in Eastern Congo, where it has repeatedly intervened, either directly or through allied militants over past 30 years in the aftermath of the Rwandan genocide.
The three are not Rwandans, please. These are Congolese, and one time he accepts it, then another time he says no, part of it is yes, and then the other part is from Rwanda, and these are he keeps on going. And how do we, leaders of our own countries, accept this to go on forever and just accept that we shall be manipulated by Tshisekedi or whoever is supporting him? He's also there pretending to be playing a peacemaker role, and he has a force that has been citing a lot fighting alongside FDLR and has been fighting the M23 on the instructions of Tshisekedi, because these are people who are not supposed to be in Congo.
All right, let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And today, I have the Star newspaper, the Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation newspaper dated 31st of January 2025. Let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Star newspaper. And the top story in the Star newspaper is saying, why is IEBC panel unable to work? Of course, that particular story, you can get it on page 4 of the Star newspaper. It continues to say, the selection panel for recruitment of commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is yet to convene its first meeting nearly a week after President William Ruto appointed its members. And you remember, last week actually, the IEBC panel, selection panel, was sworn in by Chief Justice Martha Koome in the Supreme Court on January 27th. That is Linda Kagili, Adams Olo, and Nicodemus Bore, Nicholas Nelson Makanda, Chief Registrar Winfrida Mokoya, Ada Osia, Chief Justice Evans Misati, and Koki Muli were, of course, sworn in on January 27th. No explanation has been given for the team's inability to hit the ground running despite public anxiety about its seamless and already delayed planning for the next election. Of course, we'll be waiting and see what's next for this election panel as far as they have been sworn in just recently. Moving on, frustrated Matatu crew keep up a fuse over hawker menace. Matatu operators play football at Tom Mboya Street during a strike protest. Hawkers occupying their parking space in the Nairobi CBD on Thursday. Police officers keep vigil along Moi Avenue to clear minibuses and 14-seater matatus that had been used to block major roads in the city center. Of course, there is a picture there of hawkers and matatu operators protesting at the Nairobi CBD. Of course, that particular story was seen yesterday at around 12 p.m. Yeah. Moving on, Obado put on his defense in Sharon Otieno's murder trial. And former Migori Governor Okoth Obado has expressed surprise at being placed on his defense in the ongoing murder trial of Sharon Otieno. The judge said the prosecution proved its case against him on the face value. Of course, that's a story that is in the corridors of justice. And it continues to say, Sharon suffered 7 stab wounds and 2 lash wounds. The first stab wound was so severe that it went through her womb. This ultimately led to the death of their newborn baby. The baby was 12 weeks. From the images of the 20-week-old fetus formed a part of the evidence by the prosecution in a bid to prove their case against the 3. Obado continued to say in the court yesterday, he said, and I quote, "I did not expect this outcome, but I will be given a sworn statement and call witnesses in support of my defense hearing." Of course, we'll be keeping tabs with that particular story, and we'll be notifying you as it unravels. Moving on, touring crusader American history dies at 95. That is Ogot, of course. For a long time, among the Luos, sticking and knowing cultural dogmas was believed backward and mostly left the unlearned. Professor Bedwell Ogot lived all his life trying to demystify that. Of course, our condolences to the family and RIP to Professor Bedwell Ogot. Moving on to the daily newspaper dated today, 31st January 2025, continues to say, SHA isn't working. MPs now speak up. MPs have expressed their frustrations with President William Ruto's new health plan, questioning the operational failures of the multi-billion shilling Social Health Authority and calling for a review of the healthcare system. This follows an uproar from Kenyans who have complained of access cost and service delivery. Millie Odhiambo says the PS has the vision, but the implementation is the problem. My suggestion is that if this shift fails after 6 months, we go back to NHIF. That's Millie Odhiambo. Peter Salasia says SHA is just a scam that needs to be abolished. Cancer patients and others with chronic illnesses are suffering across the country. Dr. Eva Obara says, and I quote, we need to reduce the 2.75% deduction people with payslips are suffering. We cannot go on like this. We have to do something. Anthony Kibagendi says, and I quote, a bulk of benefits in chief as inferior to what the defunct NHIF was offering. Patients have been complaining that the system does not work properly. Faith Gitao says, and I quote, you must address the delays experienced in making approvals for patients' claims in chief. Why does it take so long for people to start benefiting? Kemani Shongwa says, the presentation of Mr. Abdi shows that either those implementing chief lack their capacity or are not qualified to run the scheme. All right, moving on to matters. And before we move on, I don't know whether you've tried SHA and whether it's working on your side, but what you can see from patients on the media recently, that SHA isn't working. I don't know whether you've tried it. Moving on, Obado co-accused have a case to answer over Sharon Otieno killing. Of course, that's a story that we took a look at the Star newspaper. Lobby alleges that plot to harm Kome Supreme Court judges. Let's take a look at that particular story in page 6 of the Daily Nation. And judges and magistrates have claimed that recent social media posts and alleged withdrawal of police officers attached to Chief Justice Martha Koome are part of a coordinated attack on the Supreme Court. The Kenya Magistrate and Judges Association yesterday claimed that there have also been subtle threats by a section of lawyers to physically harm the 7 judges of the Supreme Court in a bid to intimidate and harm the 7 judges of the Supreme Court. The lobby asked the petitioners to allow the Judiciary Service Commission to do its work without intimidation or threats. Right, moving on. How DRC crisis could hurt Raila's bid for AUC top job. President William Ruto faces a delicate task as a chairperson of the East African Community in the Congo peace talks, with experts warning a decision could affect Mr. Raila Odinga's bid to chair the African Union Commission. With the February 15th AUC elections fast approaching, the current crisis is an acid test for President William Ruto, who is racing against time to ensure harmony in the region. Of course, that's a story. You can get it on page 10 of the Daily Nation. And of course, there is a story on the top of the Daily Nation. It says Professor Bedwell Ogot, Kenya's ultimate historian, takes his final bow. Of course, our condolences to the family and RIP to Professor Bedwell Ogot. Tragic end for 2 Mlolongo families as Police Chief Kanja and Amin appear in court over abductions. Let's move on to the Standard newspaper dated today, the 31st of January 2025, and abducted and killed. For 6 weeks, parents, friends, and colleagues of 4 young men have prayed, sued, and demonstrated that they be released by whoever has been holding them. 2 have been released, but as the bodies in morgue, the police have denied ever holding them, raising more questions than answers. And as the search for the other 2 men continues, 2 families will be left to bury their kin who died before their time. Of course, that story, you can get it on page 4 of the Standard newspaper. And there is a picture there of the slain Justus Mutumo, was found dead yesterday at the city mortuary, and Martin Nzuyo Mwau also dead. But Kalani Mwema still missing, and Steve Kavingo still missing. Moving on, Obado in the soup of a girl's murder. Former Migori governor is expected to defend himself against murder charges after court found he has a case to answer in the murder of university student Sharon Otieno. And of course, that's a story that's making headlines on the Daily Nation and on the Star newspaper dated today. And Trump's orders cut deeper than imagined. Continues to say it's not just that the U.S. policies will affect taxes, relationships, and investments will be hit too. That's the words, of course, of U.S. President Donald Trump. And of course, that particular story you can get it on page 7 and 8 of the Standard newspaper. And really remember, Trump withdrew U.S. from the World Health Organization, a decision that is seen to impact many African countries. Of course, we are on our own right now. Of course, at that note, we wrap up our newspaper review and our morning live segment. When we come back, we're having an interview with Kenyan actors just trying to make sense of the film industry as at now. Do stay with us. We're taking a short commercial break. When we come back, much more ahead.